Howdy YouTubers, back again with another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about Insidious the Red Door. Insidious the Red Door is the fifth installment in the Insidious franchise, but it's a direct sequel to Insidious 2, which came out all the way back in 2013. Both 3 and 4 were prequels. And following real life in the movie, 9 years have passed. And yeah, the franchise kind of goes back to basics with the Lambert family back front and center in this one, and they got the main cast to return as well. But this one is mostly about Dalton, who's the oldest son, and his father Josh. And the dad is again portrayed by Patrick Wilson, who's kind of become a bit of a scream king himself between the Insidious movies as well as starring in the popular Conjuring franchise. But in this one, he's also the director, and what's his directorial debut. And he's actually, I learned later, that he's featured in the Ghost song, which is played at the end credits. So he's like, what can he do? He's doing all sorts of things in this one. But sometimes when like studios hire these first-time directors to direct later installments of these franchises, sometimes it kind of gives off the message that maybe they don't have much faith in the film, or they're just hoping to, have one more opportunity to cash in on the name of a big franchise. And I kind of got the feeling about that at first, especially since at this point Conjuring is a lot bigger than Insidious. But also due to his acting, and since he's been in the star of these movies, I expected Patrick Wilson to be able to handle the role of director just fine. But he had a lot of help though. Friends James Wan and Leigh Whannell are back. Wan, of course, he created the Conjuring universe, but also with Whannell created the Saw franchise, and they both kickstarted the Insidious franchise. Wan directed the first two Insidious films, and he is back on as a producer for this one, while Whannell helped write the story. And kind of like I mentioned before, the whole main cast is back, of the whole original family, and that includes Simpkins, who plays Dalton, and he was the boy in the first one who, the parents thought he was in a coma, but he was really astral projecting the whole time. And I was happy to see this because when Insidious 2 came out, Ty was only 11, I believe, and now he's like the perfect age to play a grown-up Dalton. Now that he's 21. And yeah, it's kind of rare to see the same actor portray a character as both a child and again as an adult. Usually like a studio might want to bring in a bigger name or a more experienced actor. But I was happy to see Ty, Patrick, and the rest of the cast return in this one, 10 years later. But yeah, so in this movie, we learned that after the events of the second film, Josh and Dalton, they go to like a shrink or something to have their memory wiped, their memory of all the stuff that happened in the first two movies, as well as all their memories of, the further and all the evil spirits that, reside there. But through various reasons, their memories slowly start to come back. And unlike the first two movies, which had kind of like a good number of scares throughout, including that infamous jump scare in the first one, which kind of made it popular. This one, it was a bit lighter on the scares, in my opinion. Throughout the film, Dalton and Josh are both, they're trying to figure out why their brain has been feeling a bit foggy, like they're missing something, like there's a certain part of the memory that's just blank. And this was like the main plot point for most of the film. And I felt like the movie kind of lacks suspense because like we as the audience, we know the events of the first two films. We know that both Josh and Dalton can astral project, and they've literally come into contacts with demons and evil spirits before. So like for the most of the film, I felt like we as an audience were just kind of like meandering around with these two stars until things can really pop off. And that doesn't really happen until like the last 20 minutes or so. And in fact, the whole third act felt kind of rushed to me. I thought they could have explored a lot more with the further, or the old lipstick face demon, which is kind of like the main demon and antagonist from the first one. And feel like there might be a director's cut out there with how much I feel like they removed from the script, and I think I would be interested in that. But as it stands, the story itself wasn't that strong to me. Actually, we learned that the family, over the years, their relationship with each other has kind of been broken down. But for the most part, they're like all separated from each other for most of the movie, doing their own thing. There were quite a few nods to the other movies, which I enjoyed, being kind of like a fan of the franchise and horror in general. And some of the side characters, there was some really bad acting, which kind of reminded me of like the old classic horror movies, but that's kind of funny, but I don't think that was intentional. But yeah, all in all, if you're a fan of the franchise or these characters, I think that this movie, would probably still be worth a watch, if only to see how their story ends. For other, horror fans or just movie fans in general, I would give it like a slight recommendation out of 6 out of 10. But anyway, be sure to smash that like and hit subscribe if you haven't already. I'd love to hear in the comments what your thoughts are on the film or the other Insidious movies. Or also, how does the Conjuring and Insidious franchise compare to you? Anyway, that's all for now. Take care.